Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Literate Nerds. I'm Pat Kennedy. My guests this evening are Theresa Gray and James Burns. And our first subject for the evening, as usual, is near mint to poor condition, where we talk about some positive bit of news in the world of nerddom and a negative bit of news in the world of nerddom. We actually have two positive stories tonight, which is a pleasure because almost invariably when I'm working on this bit, it's very easy to find bad news when it comes to nerds. And so the first bit of good news is Steven Universe, the creators of Steven Universe, Rebecca Sugar. I'm sorry, I'll read from the IO9 article. New Steven Universe themed public service announcement from series creator Rebecca Sugar and former co-executive producer Ian Jones-Cordy. Garnet of the Crystal Gems drops into an in-universe PSA tackling the subject of racism and how it hurts people. Diversity and inclusion were always core elements to the Steven Universe story, but few moments in the series compare to Garnet wagging her finger at a child and explicitly telling them not to be a racist.
Good advice.
IO9, Charles Pulliam Moore is a really great writer. He says, the headline is New Steven Universe PSA states the obvious. Racism is for losers. And one of the things that I love about this PSA is that it would seem that the two kids that are supposed to be, there's three kids who are supposed to be actors making a PSA. And one of them actually makes a racist statement. And then Garnet shows up. But initially, the two kids doing the PSA say that they're going to marry, and it would seem that they're both boys. And there's nothing said of that.
Yeah, I love that.
It's not even glossed over. It's just not even mentioned at all.
Right.
That's
the way it should be.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
I think it's pretty good. Like I said, you can check out this article on IO9, and I'm sure that undoubtedly the people that complain about such things will be complaining about such things.
Unfortunate truth. For sure.
It's always room for complainers.
Yeah, that there is. I mean, I don't know if either of you kind folks have heard about what is called Comicsgate. I won't get into it now because it'll take up the entire episode.
There's always a gate. We have to find a new scandal. Watergate's like 50 years old now, 40 at least. So, but everything's gate now.
Yeah, and it's they're basically this movement, this group that's against politics and comics, and they say that they're not bigots, but the only people they seem to have problems with are people who are queer or people of color, and definitely they have problem with trans people. Everyone's
got a problem with somebody, and the opinions now are being entered into comic books like that. It's just it's ridiculous.
Yeah. In the world of television and film, just in time for Halloween, from Deadline, Ginger Snaps TV series based on horror films in works from Killing Eve producer Sid Gentle Films, with John Fawcett as executive producer. Ginger Snaps is one of my favorite horror flicks, one of my favorite werewolf movies. And I think it's got really good potential as a television series.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you're a fan of the original, right? And it's something that would appeal to certainly to young women.
Oh, for sure.
And
there's a lot to unpack there that I feel like they didn't really get a chance to do in the original movie. That I'm dying to see how they can dig deeper in a television show.
Yeah, and from what I understand, I don't think it's a reboot or a remake. I think it's a continuation. So it's going to tell the story of the two sisters' kids, I'm guessing.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I could be wrong about that, but I remember hearing that.
like horror television. I love horror television. You know, I just feel like it's so much easier to stay engaged and be interested in something that has, you know, either a really heavy or really scary tone to it. And I think that this has such like a cult following that it could definitely go far, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And once again, I mean, horror is really having a renaissance right now. Once again, you know, particularly serialized horror. You know, there's not only is there great stuff on television, but there's people that are doing serialized audio, you know, horror, very much like old radio plays that are really effective stuff. There's one that's out right now with Keegan-Michael Key is hosting it. That's on, oh geez, I think it might be iHeartRadio might have it. It's one of those, but I was listening to a little bit of it. It's excellent. You know, it's generally, you know, I'm on the Long Island Railroad and actually getting some chills listening to a horror program.
Isn't the Long Island Railroad scary enough, Patrick?
Yeah, the Long Island Railroad is pretty interesting. I have to give it to the MTA, though, honestly. They have done an incredible job during the pandemic of making sure that both the Long Island Railroad and the New York City subway system are spotless. They've been...
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, I moved upstate. I missed all of that. You know, that stinks.
Well, I'll tell you, man. It's
got the high life.
It's been interesting, and like, you know, the first, you know, I remember when I before we started the show, I was speaking about how I had seen an old friend of Mr. Burns and myself, another James, Mr. James Mascarella, and I was traveling into Brooklyn. The great filmmaker. I was traveling into Brooklyn to visit him to talk about actually, you know, doing a film shoot, and we wanted to have a face-to-face production meeting. And it was one of the first times that I had ventured out of the house and gotten on the train and went into the city, and the surreal, very surreal walking around. You know, because I wanted to East New York, took the L to his place. And it was like, you know, being at the Atlantic Avenue / East New York stations and there being no one anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, on a Friday afternoon. It was a little strange. You know, a little, you know, I Am Legend. You know, the book, of course, not that terrible.
That's
film. All right. So, and now
Fresh Prince did it. He rocked it. Fresh Prince rocked it.
Well, you know, he's good in the role, but the end of that book is vastly different,
right.
From the film. There was actually Ben Shapiro had said something about how Donald Trump was like Will Smith and I Am Legend recently when he got COVID, about how his antibodies were going to save us all.
Right, that's right. And I heard, and I heard he was going to go out of the hospital and pull his shirt open and have a Superman costume underneath. This is like,
yeah, that as well.
This guy, it needs to end.
Yeah.
So, but Shapiro,
you can't co-op nerddom. No, you cannot co-op.
No, and that's the thing is, you know, Shapiro says this, and people, you know, who know the book, spoiler alert, are like, you do know the end of the book. He dies. He commits suicide in prison when they're going to hang him the next morning, because it turns out that he's actually an abomination that's been murdering people because they've rebuilt society. And he realizes the title I Am Legend is him realizing that he is now the boogeyman.
Yeah, he caused the virus. Yeah,
so it's, you know, oh, jeez.
Maybe he is, Trev.
Okay, so our for the poor condition segment, we have some bad news from Heidi McDonald over at Comics Beat. Be on the lookout for very rare stolen artwork by legend Trina Robbins. Legendary cartoonist Trina Robbins has posted on Facebook that she's missing 5 pages of her extremely rare 70s art due to a FedEx mix-up and subsequent theft. Robbins writes, "Dear friends, I need your help. Back before the lockdown, I loaned 5 pieces of my original comic art from the 70s for a planned exhibit at Sacramento State College. Then along came the lockdown and the exhibit never happened. In May, the woman responsible for the exhibit suffered the tragic loss of her daughter to cancer, so I told her to take time returning my art. Then this month, I ran out of patience and demanded my art back, only to discover she had returned my pages via FedEx back in May. Someone had signed for the package, signing my name, R. Trina. I've never signed my name like that. The woman from Sacramento, almost as upset as me, is filing a claim with FedEx, but I'm appealing to you. If anyone at any time since May has offered any of my art for sale, please let me know ASAP. They're worth about 5,000 pages, evidently. $5,000, these pages, rather. Trina is just an absolute legend in the business. She's a pioneer in comics, and having worked on Wonder Woman, Shanna the She-Devil, and this is a shame. So if anybody hears about this, just please spread the word.
Yeah, do that. That's horrible.
Yeah,
it's like the old days, the old punk days. They used to steal their vans. I think Sonic Youth got their van stolen, all their equipment, vintage 70s stuff stolen. And who else? There's been a couple of those instances. Big Star got their van stolen before a gig. So yeah, that's horrible stuff. So hopefully somebody will come up with their
and like the whole story is so tragic. Like the person she lent it to lost their daughter, and then like she tried to get it back and they were stolen. Like everything about it is so sad.
Yeah.
It's and there's a history of this kind of stuff going on in the comic book business. There are stories about how back in the 70s, like entire issues of original artwork, because Marvel had a terrible policy with not returning artwork to their artists. Jack Kirby was one of the people that fought for that. And they came up with these ridiculous contracts for Jack to get his art back, that he could never display it, he could never alter it, he could never offer it for sale. But before Jack could get a lot of his art back, a lot of it disappeared. And they know it was young guys who were working at Marvel and probably in editorial who had an access to grab that stuff. There's a story, I'll footnote it, from this where back in the day, guy showed up at a comic store with the original artwork for like Amazing Fantasy 15, which is the first appearance of Spider-Man, and wanted to sell it. And one of the guys in the store didn't have the cash for it. And he told the guy, come back the next day. The guy came back the next day and was like, listen, I found another buyer for this, but I've got this, and pulled out the first 2 issues, complete issues of the X-Men. So this kind of stuff's been going on in the comic business forever.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, it is. It is bullshit. It's that. Listen, I've been doing the convention scene for forever. Since I was 10 years old, I've been going to comic conventions, and the majority of theft at conventions and trade shows is from other vendors. That's the majority of the thieves.
It's such like a slimy, it's just really, really shitty.
Yeah. And it's like the thing is whoever stole this artwork, they're never going to be able to sell it.
Well, right.
Anybody who they might be able to sell it to an unscrupulous collector, and I'm sure that there are unscrupulous collectors out there. I know that
some people don't care, honestly, like they have no integrity.